Hello and welcome to Teeing Off. I'm RJ McCullough. This week is the CIMB Classic. First, going to wrap up the Safeway from last week, go over this week and all things DFS, golf related for this week. Some storylines, field breakdown, the stats we're going to look at this week, kind of an optimal lineup, and who I like, who I don't like. So without further ado, Brendan Steele was able to successfully defend his Safeway title over the weekend. He won by 2 shots over Tony Finau. The top 5 was rounded out by Jason Hadley and Phil Mickelson, tying for third. And Canadian Graham Dillette and Tyler Duncan finished 4 back at 11 under to round out the top 5. So Brendan Steele, back-to-back wins. Maybe not the most exciting event, but not bad. A bit of a scary moment right after the players evacuated, actually. Some of the wildfires in Napa actually caught some of the golf tournament setup, some of the seating areas, some of the tents, stuff like that. Some of it actually caught fire. The whole area was evacuated in Napa Valley. Yeah, it was just evacuated. It was a really scary situation. So hopefully everyone there is safe. Glad they got the tournament finished and completed before anything came through the area. We also saw on social media Tiger Woods posting a video, a slow motion video, which he seems want to do as of late, posting these slow motion videos, which is whatever. So yeah, he posted a video of him swinging a club, hitting a ball. Looked pretty good, just a nice casual swing. And then yesterday, he actually held a clinic. Yeah, Tiger was out there hitting golf shots with Kevin Chappell and talking with the crowd. A few of those shots got out online. So Tiger's gone from not being able to do anything more than putting and chipping to swinging full clubs, and within a matter of a couple weeks. So just as a side note, that takes a lot of confidence to stand in front of a bunch of people and just hit golf shots when you literally could barely walk a few weeks ago. I know he's Tiger Woods, but I certainly wouldn't be doing that. So good for Tiger. Looks like he's slowly getting back. I don't know if we're going to see him on tour anytime this season, but good for him. Hopefully his back's getting better and he'll return sooner rather than later. This week the PGA Tour is in Malaysia. They flew over to Kuala Lumpur. They're at TPC Kuala Lumpur for the CIMB Classic. TPC Kuala Lumpur, the West course is what they'll be playing on. It is 7,005 yards, a par 72, a couple of easy par 5s in there. The course is located just 5 miles from the city's heart. The facility spent its first 25 years as Kuala Lumpur Golf and Country Club before joining the TPC network 2 summers ago. It is a no-cut event. There's a small field, just 78 players making the trek. A total of 29 players are headed to Malaysia from last week's Safeway Open. A couple of the storylines at play this week. Justin Thomas has played in this event twice, and he's won it twice. So he's looking to go 3 for 3. Obviously, he likes his course, likes the setup. He obviously plays well here, so we'll look for that three-peat. He is trying to become the first guy to have a three-peat since Steve Stricker won 3 John Deere Classics from 2009 to 2011. The only others to do that in the past dozen years, Tiger Woods, he did it 3 times. And Stuart Appleby won the Century Tournament of Champions from 2004 to 2006. No Asian Tour pro has won the CIMB Classic. Thailand's Kiradech Afi Barnrat, try saying that 5 times fast, nearly pulled it off in 2013. Afi Barnrat finished 1 shot out of joining Ryan Moore and Gary Woodland in a playoff. Hideki Matsuyama, he has struggled a bit. He struggled throughout the FedEx Cup playoffs and went just 1-2-1 at the President's Cup. However, he did get a singles victory over Justin Thomas on the final day. So hopefully a mixture of that and a return to his home continent will ignite a bit of a spark for Hideki. It would be nice to see him get a W in front of some home fans. So let's take a look at the field, some of the players in it. We have 11 entries that finished among the top 30 in last season's FedEx Cup points race. So 11 guys from the Tour Championship have made their way to Malaysia. Hideki Matsuyama, I mentioned him, and Players Champion Siwoo Kim are among 9 teammates from the international squad that competed in the President's Cup at Liberty National. Xander Schauffele, whose Tour Championship victory at East Lake sealed him Rookie of the Year honors. He will make his first start of his second Tour season this week. And a few other big names in the field to look out for: Paul Casey, Charles Schwartzel, Ian Poulter, and the young German sensation Thomas Peters, And if you're like me and are Canadian, we have 4 Canadians in the field. Richard T. Lee, newcomer to the tour for Canadians. Adam Hadwin, Graham Dillette, and Nick Taylor will look to continue a bit of success from last year. This week, the stats that I'm going to be looking at, it's a par 72 course, under 7,200 yards, as I mentioned, so it's sort of short. Definitely a couple easier par 5s. But looking back through Justin Thomas's last 2 wins and previous events held at this TPC Kuala Lumpur course, the most important stat that always seems to jump out every time an event has been played here: the guys that have been at the top of the leaderboard have fared well in strokes gained tee to green. So clearly that's the most important stat this week. I'm going to weight that pretty heavily. I always like to look at DraftKings points and birdies as just sort of a differentiator between guys. I mentioned this last week, but if you have one guy that gets 6 pars and one guy gets 3 birdies and 3 bogeys, the guy that has the 3 birdies and 3 bogeys is going to get a lot more points. So you want to skew towards guys that do make a lot of birdies. And I mentioned the par 5, so we're going to slightly weight performance on par 5s and par 4s between 400 and 450 yards. Those are the specific type of holes that are going to be most important this week. And I always like to throw strokes gained approach in there. That's really where the pros make up most of their shots. And just slightly putting. Obviously, putting is extremely important. So that being said, I'm going to go through, there's only 78 players in the field. I have whittled that down to 23 players into 4 categories. We've got the guys in the double digits. There's 3 guys above 10,000 pricing this week. There's 15 guys in what I call the top tier. That's under 10,000. Under double digits, but above 8,000. Mid-tier, 8,000, 7,000 to 8,000. There was 43 guys in that. I liked 11 of them. And in the bottom tier, the bargain hunters, 17 guys. I like 2 of them. So I'm going to start at the top. I like all 3. I think every week I'm going to, at least for the double digits guys, going to go through each one of them because there's always a good case to be made for each one of them. This week's tough because Justin Thomas, he's won his only 2 times here. So obviously you're thinking, okay, I'm going to take Justin Thomas. No brainer, right? But his salary is $12,300. So if you're going to take Justin Thomas, you're really going to have to offset that with a lot of guys in the bottom parts. And from going through, I hadn't really liked. I mean, there's only 4 guys that I like 7,000 or less. So it's tough to offset having Justin Thomas in your lineup. But if you would like to pay close attention to the mid-tier and bargains that I'll go through in a bit. So right at the top, we got Justin Thomas as the highest ranked guy, 12,300. Everything about him this week looks good. His recent form, his last 3 starts, he's finished 2nd, 47th, and 1st. Of course, this tournament, as I mentioned, 2 first-place finishes. And in terms of stats that I mentioned, he's 7th in the field with those stats weighted the way I had. 1st in the field, though, in DraftKings points and birdies. 10th in the field in strokes gained, par 5s. And of the top tier, I do have him first ranked in that top tier. However, I might not play him unless I play multiple lineups. If I'm just going to go with 1 or 2 lineups and sort of put them in a bunch of different contests, I'm probably going to steer away from Justin Thomas just because you want to be able to make the rest of your lineup decent. And really, the only way having Justin Thomas in your lineup is going to pay off is if he wins. If he does anything except for win, it's kind of a waste because you could have filled that out with better otherwise. So Moving down, Hideki Matsuyama is the second highest priced guy. He's at 11,200. His stats again also look really good. His recent form, that's the part he struggles a little bit. 26th, and that was in the Tour Championship. 47th and 23rd, his last three starts. In this tourney, though, he has finished 2nd, 5th, 21st, and 25th in 4 starts. So he fares well on this course, and he's 3rd in my stats model, 2nd in the field in DraftKings points and birdies, 3rd in the field in strokes gained tee to green, which I mentioned is the most important stat this week. So Hideki might like to drop him in a lineup or two, but again, sort of pricey. And then the third guy in this tier I really like this week is Paul Casey. He's 10,500, so you can sort of massage him in with other guys. Recent form, 5th, 33rd, and a 4th. In his last 3 starts, I only look at, when I'm talking about recent starts, I only look at September in. So if their last start was the PGA or something, they're not going to get any recent starts for me. So yeah, his are 5th, 33rd, and 4th. This tournament, he's fared pretty well, not as well as the first few guys, but 21st, 24th, 37th here. And his stats, he's 13th in my model. So first, though, in strokes gained tee to green, the most important stat. 8th in par 4s, 400 to 450. I have him 3rd in that tier, but just because he's $700 cheaper than Hideki and almost $2,000 cheaper than Justin Thomas, if you're going to take one guy from there, I would lean towards Paul Casey. So now moving on to the top tier, I'm not going to go through every single guy. I do like certain guys. For example, Charles Schwartzel. I like Charles Schwartzel. Just at that price tag, there's nothing that genuinely jumps out at me with him. So here's the 7. There's 15 guys between that double digits 10,000 mark and over 8,000. So the 7 guys I like. Pat Perez, his salary is 9,000. His recent forms is really good. That's what sets him apart here. He's 16th, 12th, and 6th. His last 3 starts. This tournament, he hasn't done that great. 33rd, 63rd, and 33rd. Not too bad. And in my stats model, he's 42nd. So in that second tier, I have him 4th ranked out of 7. I'm probably not going to take him this week, but his recent form is enough that if you want to take a reach for Pat, go for it. Ian Poulter. Another guy doesn't extremely jump off the page, but he has a lot of things going for him. His recent form, 11th, 40th, and 23rd. His salary is only $8,900. This tournament, he has a 17th place finish. And in my stats model, he's 19th in the field, but 4th in strokes gained on par 5s. Moving down, I like Gary Woodland quite a bit this week. He's 8,700. His recent form, 19th, 27th, 18th in his last 3 starts. This tournament, the last 2 years, he's finished 56th, but the 2 years before that, both years he finished runner-up. So 2 56th finishes and 2 second-place finishes. And in my stats model, he is 2nd overall. 2nd in strokes gained tee to green, 3rd in DraftKings points and birdies. All really important stats. I have him 2nd in this tier. The guy I have 1st overall in this tier, though, Brendan Steele. I know he's coming off a win. Some people don't like to play guys after a win. They might have been celebrating, not really focusing on their game. But the way I look at it is, if a guy would have come 2nd, you wouldn't lean away from picking him the next week. So why lean away when a guy came 1st? Especially when he had to fly to Malaysia and stuff. It's not like he would have been spending his nights out at the bar. So anyways, I have him 1st in this tier. He is 8,300, pretty well priced. Recent form, of course, 1st last week. 44th in his previous start before that, and 56th in the start before that. This tournament, he has finished 26th last year, coming off a win the week prior. And then the year before that, he finished 3rd, and the year before that, 25th. So pretty good finishes here. He is 1st in my stats model, 1st in strokes gained, par 5, and top 7 in the field in every single category that I'm looking at. So he really jumps off the page. Probably going to put Brendan in every one of my lineups. Kevin Na let me down a little bit last week, but really not too bad. Finished 37th. He's coming in at 8,200. I have him 3rd in this tier. His recent finishes 37th, 53rd, and 6th. At this tournament, he has fared well, 29th, 3rd, and 2nd. And in my stats model, I have him 9th. First in strokes gained approach, 2nd in par 4s, 400 to 450. So for Kevin, moving down, Anirban Lahiri, he is 6th in this tier for me, priced at 8,200. Recent finishes of 9th and 56th. In this tournament, he's finished 3rd, 21st, 52nd, and 35th. So last year, a 3rd place finish. Looking to improve on that this year. And I have him 29th in my stats model. Not the best, but not too shabby. 8th in strokes gained. Par 5 is his top category. And rounding out this top tier of non-double-digit players, I have Russell Knox. He came up quite a bit, whether it was over. I was looking at whether it was over last 8 rounds, last 12 rounds, last 24 rounds, last 100 rounds, whatever it was. Russell Knox kept coming up. So he is 7th in my listings, but that's mainly because his last start was a miscut. I don't like taking guys off a miscut. But before that, he had a 34th and a 61st. Again, not great, but this tournament, he has a 10th and a 21st, his last 2 starts. So that's pretty good, and he is 5th in my stats model, 3rd strokes gained approach, and 6th strokes gained tee to green. Moving on to the mid-tier, that is guys 8,000, between 8,000 and 7,000. There were 43 guys in this, so the bulk of the field was in this category. This is where you really can make or break your lineups. I liked 11 of these guys. I tried to go through with a bit tighter of a fine-tooth comb, but still, yeah, you'll see in a sec. My first, so I'll go most expensive to least expensive. Emiliano Grillo is 7,800. I have him at 8th of 11. His recent form, 28th, 58th, 22nd, pretty good. Tournament history, 17th at this course last year, I believe. And 11th in my stat rankings, 4th in birdies in the field, 6th in DraftKings points. Moving down, Bud Cauley, 7,600. He is 6th in this tier for me of 11. His recent starts, 7th, 27th, and 47th. So coming off a 7th place finish last week, he does not have any tournament history here, which drops him down a bit. And he is 12th in my stats model. 2nd, strokes gained approach. 4th in the field in strokes gained tee to green. Kyle Stanley, also at 7,600. 20th, 47th, and 25th in his last 3 starts. Tournament history, 33rd, 19th. And he sits 10th in my stats model. He is 7th in my tier ranking. Chez Reavie, he is 5th in my tier ranking, also at 7,600. Good starts lately, 13th and 12th his last 2 starts. Tournament, not so great, 60th in his only start, but those last 2 13th and 12th starts really jump off the page. He is 16th in the stat model. Canadian, Graham Dillette, I have him 3rd in this tier. He's a bit lower at 7,500. Recent, he finished 5th last week, a 75th in his last start before that, but 5th last week comes in hot. In this tournament, he finished 7th in his last start here in 2014. He doesn't suit that well stats-wise for this course, 47th in the field by my rankings, but a good course history and finishing 5th last week, Graham would be a pretty good play. Lucas Glover, he is 7,500. I have him 9th in this tier. His recent form is what bodes well for him, though. 30th, 12th, and 30th his last 3 starts. Not so great tournament history, 64th in 2014, his only start, and 28th in my stats model. Charles Howell, I have him sitting 4th in the tier rankings, 7,400. His recent form, not so great, 67th and a miscut. But tournament history, 39th, a 10th place, and a 7th place finish, so 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts here. And he's 4th in the stats model, including 6th strokes gained approach, 7th in birdies, and 9th strokes gained tee to green. As I said, 4th overall in the stats model, and also 4th in the tier ranking. Rafael Cabrera Bello, 7,400. His recent form, 33rd and 18th. Tournament history, 10th. He's 38th in my stats ranking, which is not the best, but a combination of 33rd and 18th as his recent starts and 10th last year in this event. I have him 2nd in this tier. 10th in this tier, I have James Hahn, 7,400. 33rd and 75th in his last 2 starts. He has really good course history, though, a 9th, a 6th, and a 56th. and he sits 37th in the field in my stats model. 11th of 11 in this tier, but really 11th of 43. Just he was the last guy that I found was worthy. Keegan Bradley, he's at 7,000. His recent starts, he missed the cut last week, but as a 27th and a 35th before that, not too shabby. Last year at this event, he finished 6th. Before then, he had finished 47th and 10th, so he's got some good course history, and he is 14th in my ranking. Now, my number one guy in this tier, he's the cheapest priced, going to have him in all my lineups, Stuart Sink. He is $7,000. Recent form, 27th and 12th, so he's playing well. Tournament history, 17th, 56th, and 11th, so he plays well at this course, and he's 8th in my stats model, including being 5th in birdies in the field and 10th in par 4 ranks. So I really like Stuart Sink. And now, finally, moving on to the bargain basement. There are only 2 guys that I liked out of the 17, and those would be first Hudson Swafford. He's my top choice for the bargain basement guys. Recent form, 40th and 13th. Tournament history, 29th and 24th, and he sits 24th in my stats model. The other guy I would consider playing from that under 7,000 group would be Sung Kang. He has a 62nd, a 52nd, and a 35th his last 3 starts. Not the best, but all within the cut. As I said, there's going to be no cut this week, but still, he's finished 21st in this tournament before, and he sits 25th out of the 78 players in my stats model. So those would be my top 23 guys, sort of a couple options from each tier. I mentioned the difficulty this week is in trying to balance out what you want to do with that top range, really. If you want to take Justin Thomas, but then kind of suffer a little bit at the bottom of your lineup, or if you want to take a bunch of guys in that maybe 8,500 to 7,500 range and fill it all out with that. Personally, if I were to do one optimal lineup, I would have to throw in, of course, Brendan Steele and Stuart Sink I mentioned quite a bit about Stuart Sink. He was the top guy in my mid-tier ranks, and in the top tier, I liked Brendan Steele quite a bit. So those 2 would be in, as well as Gary Woodland I like quite a bit at 8,700. Bud Colley at 7,600 is a good choice, and Chez Reavie at 7,600, another good choice. So if you take a bunch of guys sort of in that range, that leaves you with the ability to round your lineup out with Paul Casey. So Chez Reavie, Bud Colley, Paul Casey, Gary Woodland, Stuart Sink, and Brendan Steele, to me, is sort of an optimal lineup that adds up to 49,700. But you know what? If you want to mess around, have Justin Thomas or Hideki in there, you can definitely do that. I've given enough guys to play around with. I'm gonna post all my numbers and things, so if you want to look at it, do your own sort of tinkering, mix what I found with sort of what you found, and make your own rankings. Of course, that's great. I'm gonna post the blog, Teeing Off blog. If you want to follow me on on Twitter, at RJMCCULLOUGH, or just search Teeing Off on SoundCloud, iTunes, Twitter, whatever. You'll find my stuff. Thank you for listening. I'm going to wrap this up here. Enjoy the CIMB Classic. Hopefully we'll get some more Tiger videos by the time next week rolls around. Also, hopefully Justin Thomas can three-peat. I just said I'm not really going to bet on him this week, but it would be really cool for him to three-peat. Thanks for listening. If you want to reach out, give me some feedback, more than welcome. I'm always happy to hear from anyone, good or bad. So enjoy the week, and I will talk to you next Wednesday.